Hey guys, it's Mischievous, and today I'm going to be giving you an overview of my trip to Luxor, Egypt. Luxor is on the Nile River, and every morning you can see hot air balloons rising up into the sky. What a great way to start your day. We booked a tour guide for our visit and were picked up from our hotel early in the morning. Since it was the hottest time of the year, there were very few tourists, and it was very easy to get into all of the stunning historical sites. Our first stop is the famous Valley of the Kings, home to the burial sites of the pharaohs and... Wait a minute. Before I go on, I want to introduce our amazing tour guide, Mr. Mohsen, also known as Mr. Mossy, or my favorite, Moss the Boss, from Reflections Travel. Mr. Mossy told us captivating stories of each of the sites we visited, stories filled with intrigue, deception, and mystery that made me really feel like I was there. Our first stop was KV-16, the tomb of Ramses I. Before we go in, let's look at a few facts I'll be covering. Ramses I was pharaoh less than 2 years, sometime between 1290 and 1294 BC. He wasn't born a royal, and he was the first pharaoh of the 19th dynasty. He made some improvements to the temple at Karnak, and we have a mummy mystery. Okay, let's go inside. Ramses I's tomb is very small, and his sarcophagus, as you can see, was painted rather than carved. This was all because he was already an old man when he became pharaoh, and ruled for only a short time, so they didn't have time to prepare a massive tomb. He was a military man and worked for the previous pharaoh, Horemheb. Now, when they discovered this tomb in 1817, it had been looted by grave robbers and the mummy was gone. Later, a mummy turned up in the Niagara Falls Museum in Ontario, Canada. Researchers used carbon dating and CT scans to determine that this mysterious mummy was Ramses I. The mummy was finally returned to Egypt in 2003. Our next stop is KV-11, the resting place of Ramses III. Before we go in, let's look at our Pharaoh Facts. Ramses III ruled from 1186 to 1155 BC. He was pharaoh during a time of turmoil and is considered the last great pharaoh of the New Kingdom period of the Egyptian history. And we have a murder mystery on our hands. Okay, let's get started. Ramses III reigned for over 30 years, so his tomb is pretty large and very beautifully decorated. While he ruled for a long time, Egypt was constantly under attack from the Libyans and a group known as the Sea Peoples who invaded Egypt. Ramses III successfully defended Egypt and was known as a warrior pharaoh, but all this fighting drained the riches of Egypt. Now, let's get to the murder mystery. Thanks to the discovery of an ancient record of a trial held after the pharaoh's death, called the Judicial Papyrus of Turin, we know that there was a conspiracy to murder him. This plot is known as the Harem Conspiracy. Like many pharaohs and kings in ancient times, Ramses III had many wives. One of his wives was angry and wanted her son, Pentawere, to become pharaoh and not Ramses IV. So she plotted with a pastry chef, a butler, and over 20 others to kill the pharaoh. While the plot succeeded, she was caught, and 28 people were executed, including her son Pentawere. What happened to her? We don't know. Our next stop is the tomb of Ramses IV, the son of Ramses III. He was only 21 years old when he took the throne after the harem conspiracy that killed his father. The young pharaoh presided over the trial of his father's murderers and ordered the execution of his half-brother Pentawere, who tried to steal the throne. While he only served 6 short years as the pharaoh, he started a massive building program and is known as the last great builder of ancient Egypt. His tomb was excavated in 1905. After visiting the Valley of the Kings, Mr. Mossy took us to a massive mortuary temple surrounded by cliffs. This stunning structure is a site dedicated to my favorite pharaoh of all. As we approached the temple, it was hard to believe just how big it was and how much work it would be to build such a thing thousands of years ago. But what is most amazing is that this temple was built for Hatshepsut, a woman who ruled Egypt as pharaoh. She ruled Egypt from 1479 to 1458 BC and became a very powerful pharaoh. But she was erased from history shortly afterward. But what was her mysterious crime? And could it be she had a famous role that many of us are familiar with? Hatshepsut was the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I and wife of Pharaoh Thutmose II. However, she never had a son, so the son of one of the other wives was going to be the next pharaoh. But that boy, Thutmose III, was just 2 years old when Thutmose II died. So Hatshepsut took over and ruled as pharaoh for about 20 years. Her time as pharaoh was a time of peace and prosperity, and she oversaw all kinds of brilliant building projects. But then, after her death, Thutmose III and his son Amenhotep II tried to erase her from history. Her statues were destroyed, her name was chiseled off temples and monuments, and many of her building projects were attributed to other pharaohs. But why would someone do this? Why would someone try to erase and destroy the memory of someone who had made Egypt peaceful and prosperous? What was her crime? Well, the story I like is that Hatshepsut was the famous daughter of Pharaoh, who rescued baby Moses from the Nile River. Could it be that the destruction brought on Egypt before the Exodus caused the Pharaoh to blame Hatshepsut for the disaster? Did he think that if she hadn't taken in the baby Moses, this would have never happened? We don't know for sure, but there's some evidence that seems to support this fascinating idea, and I hope you are interested enough to research more. Our last stop on our tour was the Temple of Karnak. It had been a long, hot day under the Egyptian sun, and I was getting really tired. Still, walking around this giant temple gave me a chance to reflect on all I had seen today. I wondered if I was walking in the footsteps of Ramses III, or maybe I took a rest in a spot where Ramses IV had stopped to think about the death of his father. Had a young Hatshepsut chased little Moses around the pillars and through the massive courtyard? It was a wonderful way to end my tour of the amazing city of Luxor. Before I end this video, I want to give a special thanks to Mr. Mossy, who was an amazing tour guide and really made Egyptian history come alive for me. If any of you guys are planning on visiting Luxor, there's no better guide than Mr. Mossy. Okay guys, if you want to see more great travel videos like my trip to Angkor Wat or adventures around the world, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and we will see you all next time. Bye guys!